This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, students, and good morning, panelists. My name is Carrie Willigan. I'm the Assistant Dean for the School of Business Office of Career Services, and we're thrilled to have you all here this morning. We have a wonderful panel. This is our ProfessionalQuest Entrepreneurship panel. We've put together a wonderful hour for you. I'd like to turn this over quickly to Rebecca Howick. She's our Interim Director for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the School of Business. Students, if you have questions for the panelists, please put them in the chat, and we will make sure that Rebecca gets those questions. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it right over to Rebecca, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carrie. So as she mentioned, my name is Rebecca Howick. I'm the Interim Director for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship within the School of Business. We're located in Enterprise Hall, room 278. So we have a lot of great programming that we would love for you to enjoy and engage with us. So if you have a venture that you're working on or just interested in entrepreneurship or innovation, please stop by or send an email. You'll get our contact info afterwards. But just wanted to invite you to join in and enjoy some of our programming. So I'd like to introduce you guys to our awesome panelists. They are so generous to share their time with us this morning. So I'll jump right in with Michael Gallagher. He is the co-founder of Image Shield and also the executive chairman of the Stevie Awards. Michael, if you want to say a couple things about yourself.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I got my MBA at Mason in 1994, and like a lot of people, I grew up with my parents telling me you have to go to college and get a job. You know, unless you come from an entrepreneurial family, that's probably what you've heard from your parents, right? And one of the things I learned late was that getting a job and working for someone else is not necessarily your destiny, it's an option. And there are other options. You can work for yourself and create your own life. And that's something I didn't learn until I was in my 40s. I didn't start my first business until I was 42, which is rather unusual. Most businesses get started earlier. So I can give you my perspective on that. And I can tell you some of the things that I learned along the way. And I look forward to sharing that with you.
Thank you, Michael. So next we have Molly Gimmel. She is the CEO of D2D Inc. Molly, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you could share a little bit about yourself, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here today. As Rebecca said, my company is called Design to Delivery Inc., D2D Inc., and we are a government contracting firm. I started it in 2001 with a business partner after we met at and worked together at Deloitte for a few years. And I've just recently started another company, which is called the Velamo Leadership Institute, which is an online training company based on a book that I'm about to publish. So yeah, entrepreneurship to me, I actually, unlike Michael, I came from an entrepreneurial family. And my parents, while I did get a job right out of college, my parents were very encouraging about going out on my own, starting my own business. And I would never go back to work for somebody else ever again.
Thank you. Congrats on all the exciting stuff coming up for you, Molly. Next we have Jody Mitchell. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Directed Analytics, also a Mason alum. Welcome, Jody. Please share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Very happy to be here. My name is Jody Mitchell, founder CEO of Directed Analytics. And at Directed Analytics, we have a software and a framework for goal attainment. We are also working to get into the federal government space. So we have our 8A certificate, and we are partnering and teaming with other companies to get into the federal government contracting space. Like Rebecca said, I am a Mason alum. I got my master's in computer engineering in 2010, and I started my company in 2014 as far as incorporating it. I worked full time, and so that allowed me to take experiences from my full-time work. I had stretch assignments, and I also saved up money so that I could start working for myself full-time. I started working for myself full-time, I believe it was August of 2019. So all of the experiences, the education, the work at different companies. I worked at Lockheed and I had an opportunity to get a lot of different experiences, a lot of stretch assignments. And so all those things really played a big part into what I'm doing right now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jody. Next, we have Katie Nicholas. She's a tech analyst at the Estee Lauder Companies. She is also a Mason alum. We got a lot of great people coming back to share with fellow patriots. So thank you, Katie, for joining us.
Of course, and I'm probably pretty close to you guys. I graduated in 2015, and I'm going to try and bring a little bit of a different perspective because I have not started my own business, but I do work on a very entrepreneurial team within a larger organization. And I also helped found a Center for Retail Innovation at my previous role at the Retail Industry Leaders Association. So I have a lot of experience working with startups and with entrepreneurs, but want to show that there is a way to do that entrepreneurial spirit within a large company if you're not ready to maybe take the risk of starting out on your own. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to add to this conversation today for you.
Thank you so much, Katie. And then last but not least, we have Hey Kim. He's the co-founder of Foundation Coffee Roasters over in the city of Fairfax. If you are a coffee drinker, you must stop by. I highly recommend it. It's the best coffee in town. So, hey, if you want, would please share a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Thanks, Becky. It's good to be here. I'm the owner of Foundation Coffee. We opened our shop about a year and a half ago in the middle of the pandemic. And as a new business owner, I'm hoping to share my experience as opening up a new business through my mistakes or things that I learned. If you're thinking about opening up a new business, then hopefully my experience will help you along the way, and good to be here.
Thank you so much. So we will jump right into our questions for our panelists and see what awesome advice they have to share and wisdom. But if we want to start, I think one that would be good is, do you have any advice for students that you wish you knew when you were in college?
I can go ahead and
I'll jump in first, and it's probably not lost on this group because you're here because you are interested in entrepreneurship. At least if you don't come from an entrepreneurial background and have an entrepreneurial family, at least you're thinking about it. But it was not something I thought about in college because I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, and as I said, the emphasis was always on get a job, make sure you get a job, and I have to say I was probably a good employee. Of course, I'm being subjective. I had like 6 or 7 jobs until I started my own, but I was never really happy being an employee. Molly said that she would never go back and work for somebody else, and I would say if everything fell apart, I would probably live in the street rather than go work for somebody else. I just had an entrepreneurial nature and didn't know how to nurture it and didn't know how to find it. So I would say, my biggest advice to myself looking back in college is, getting a job and working for somebody else is not necessarily your destiny. It's an option. I would encourage every student who's watching today or looking at this recording to not start a business right out of school. Go get a job and learn an industry. Learn about how an industry works, who the competitors are, what the business models are. You don't have to do it for 20 years like I did. You can do it for a couple of years and then start a business after that. Learn an industry before you go out and make the personal investment in starting a business.
Thank you. And Katie, I think you had something to add to that as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say things that I kind of didn't really know about when I was in college were things like there are tons of case competitions designed for entrepreneurial spirit that can really help you kind of hone in those skills of how to kind of early stage design an MVP and kind of put together a business model, help you work in groups and kind of figure out how you might want to eventually kind of start that big project. So I think those kind of competitions are really interesting. You also will meet tons of like-minded students from other schools and kind of with other interests. And then the other thing that I kind of wish I'd thought about earlier on in school is what types of skills outside of my core classes might I want to experience? And that could be kind of in the art department, learning how to Photoshop and do some of those HTML skills. learning how to code, things like that are going to become really important really quickly. And I'm sure a lot of you are kind of already on that train since you are involved with the entrepreneurial school. But just kind of figuring out those fringe skills that can help with your job, but may not be kind of a core component, can really set you apart and are skills you're going to need if you're doing something on your own, because you will likely be wearing a lot of hats at once, at least kind of in those early stages.
Can I add to what Katie just said? I was going to say something similar in that, you know, as a business owner, you have to maybe not be an expert, but at least understand all aspects of the business. So, you know, even if you're starting a web design company and you're a great web designer, you still have to understand accounting because you have to know your numbers, and you have to understand if you're profitable or not. You have to understand marketing because you've got to bring in clients. So I would say, you know, if you're interested in starting a business, not just be an expert in what it is you want to do, but also have the basic business skills, the well-rounded business skills to be able to run the business, because so many businesses go under because people are experts in what they do in the web design, but they don't know how to run a business. And so I would say take business classes that aren't necessarily in your core competency, so you understand the whole, all aspects of running the business: personnel, HR, accounting, marketing, all that stuff.
If I can just add for a second, I took the same route, I believe, as Michael, as far as getting professional experience, and that has been key, because that experience piece, when you do hit the ground, you have an understanding of what needs to happen. So from the standpoint of being able to lead a team, being able to communicate technical subjects to stakeholders or to leaders, senior leaders, that was something that I really learned. One of the things that I wish I would have done more in college was communication. I'm a technical person, so being able to break some things down so that everyone understands it. So someone that's more of a business focus or someone that is not technical, being able to both written and verbally. So I wish I would have focused more on English, but at the time I was so interested in technical, I was just like, what? I don't really, but it just really matters being able to communicate what you're thinking and your approach. And then also one of the things that I'm learning now is just the importance of building relationships and in different areas, whether it's for new customers or if it's for new customers, or if it's for wanting to get together from a team perspective with other companies or other partners. So just that time and understanding what goes into building relationships.
Yeah, so I think having different types of experience is very important. I think Michael and Jody also mentioned things about professional experience, but besides those, I think it's also good to experience different things out there. When I was in college, I was always anxious to, finish my classes and get graduated and, look for the jobs and things like that. But now I maybe recommend maybe take a year off and see what's out there. One of the things that I remember doing after my junior years was taking a year off and volunteered for a nonprofit organization in Thailand and to help other people. And by experiencing different things like that in other cultures and so forth, it helps you to understand how people are, and with that understanding, it will help you when you're opening up a new business. Those are the things you must understand, how your customers are thinking, and those sort of different experiences will help you along the way. And yeah, so I say go out there and experience different things. Don't be afraid of take some time off in during your class and see what's out there in the world.
One of the most important reasons I think I advocate for anyone, young person who wants to start a business, is to go work in the industry that you're interested in for somebody else for a year or two first. Is early in your career, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes can be really costly if you're making them on your limited financial resources as a young entrepreneur. You want to make those mistakes on somebody else's dime, on somebody else's budget. so that by the time you're starting your own business, you've worked all those mistakes out of your system and you're going to minimize any big mistakes that you're going to make on your own dime.
Yeah, I will agree with that. And, I'll give you an example. I used to think I wanted to be in advertising, and I got an internship at an ad agency and realized that I didn't like the industry at all. So you might have this great idea that you think you want to be the next best, advertising creative person and start working for an agency and not love it. So if you don't work for somebody else first, you'll have invested all this time and resources into something that you end up, walking away from. So I agree 100% with what Michael just said. Learn on someone else's dime first before you start your business.
Wonderful. That kind of leads me to my next question, which is how important are internships and study abroads, et cetera? You guys kind of touched on that a little bit, especially Hay, but if you guys could dive a little bit deeper into the importance of those internships and study abroad to see what's out there, see what you're passionate about, things like that.
Well, I'll just continue what I just was saying. The internships, I think, are super important, especially, if you think you want to start a business in a certain industry, get an internship with a company in that industry. Because that gives you and preferably a small company, because if you go to a really large company, you'll probably be only slotted into a small department and only have a very limited view of the industry and what the companies do. But if you go to a small company and try to get an internship, you'll probably have a much bigger range of experiences and a bigger vision of what the industry is like and what it's really like to own a small business in that industry.
I'm going to differ with you on that one point, Molly, in that I think if you're going to get an internship, it should be with a big company. Because one of the things that you need to figure out early in your career is, are you a big company person or a small company person? And like Molly, I was interested in advertising and public relations early in my career, and I went to work for what was at the time the 13th largest ad agency in the world in New York. There were 1,000 people in the New York office, and I learned pretty quickly I did not like being in a big company. I didn't like being a small fish in a big pond. And I think that's one of the key things you have to figure out. Even if you're going to be an entrepreneur, is it your goal to basically, provide a nice living for yourself and your family? And, even if that means it's you and an assistant for the rest of your life, you're happy with that. Or, do you want to take over the world? Do you want to build an Amazon or a Meta? That preference is going to help determine what kind of business you're going to start and try to make success.
And
I
I really think
to add in there that it's really important when you have these internships to focus on kind of the leadership styles of your bosses, because it's really important to kind of take different things from different bosses. You could take it from me. You're not going to like every boss and you're not going to work well with every person, but it's important to have those experiences because it teaches you how to work with other people. It teaches you to pick up on, maybe they're asking questions of other individuals that I didn't know to ask before. And so you really want to focus on kind of what you can take back if it is your end goal to start a business. What can you learn from their leadership style and apply it to your own? What is working well? And you're not limited to one internship. You could do the big company and the small company. I would say start early on internships. There's no reason to wait till your junior summer to take one. And a lot of times internships can turn into job opportunities. So think about that as well. But I would say you're not limited to a small company or a big company. You're young, so you'll want to kind of soak in all of those different experiences, and you'll want to kind of figure out what might work best for you. And some of the opportunities with bigger companies do come with big cities, and that might be exciting to you. So don't only think about kind of staying in the Fairfax area. There's a lot of great internships there, but there's a lot beyond there as well. And so that's what I think you can get by looking into other industries, by looking into, I come from a retail background. There are retail positions in kind of every aspect of the business. So you may want a management, you may want a technical internship. Don't limit yourself to kind of just tech companies, because those roles exist within every company, and that's kind of what makes them work. So I would say really focus on leadership styles and communication, like Jody was saying earlier, because you're going to need those kind of throughout your life, and they're all transferable skills over time.
Yeah, and I think also applying for what type of internship program matters too, because whether that's a big company or a small company, different companies have different internship program, and so you probably want to look at what sort of internship program that they offer, and based on that, it will provide you with the learning experience. And also, I want to touch upon on this studying abroad topic. If you are trying to experience another culture, I think like studying abroad would be a great way for you to experience other culture. And what does that offer to a new business, opening up a new business? I think by experiencing different things that are out there, it may not directly help you opening up a new business, but as my example, when I'm opening up a new coffee business, it is a trendy industry, right? Coffee shop, you must be able to offer an environment where people feel comfortable, but not only that, something has to be new from the existing shops that are out there. So, there are like trends that are out there, and what can you offer from your coffee shop? Based on my experience from traveling into like many different countries, I was able to see things that are different from typical things that I would see in the United States. And then those are the things that were sort of gathered into my design philosophy and interior design and all these different things that I get to actually do. So having different types of experience will definitely help you, especially if you're trying to open up a business such as like restaurants or coffee shops. Those are going to in one way or the other help you along the way.
Thank you.
Just to add on to Hayes' point there, one thing
Sure.
on kind of the study abroad before we leave, I didn't do a study abroad program, but today's businesses are so much more global that if you're looking to partner with a larger company, kind of you're a tech vendor, you will likely need to know what competition is happening around the globe because there are tech vendors in every country. You'll need to kind of understand those time zones, what they're working on. So it does add value to kind of have more of a global understanding. You don't necessarily need to do a study abroad, but with the certificate program I did, it was kind of a global program. So you were teamed up with people from other countries. And I think that really did add a lot of value of just understanding kind of cultural differences, understanding that you may be talking to people from outside the US. It's not their first language. So just having a better understanding and knowing that at some point you probably will be working with people who are not from America, who may not live here now, who may be talking about kind of global affairs. And so that's just an important thing to keep in mind if that's something that you're looking towards.
For sure. And just keeping up with things like the news and what's happening around the world is a very important thing as you're engaging with folks, as well as just touching base on the internship aspect of that. Sometimes it's a process of elimination of seeing what you do and what you don't like. And like Katie was saying, it's saying, oh, what can I learn? What can I take from this experience and build it into the next one? So a lot of times in college, you feel like, or at least I did, I need to have a specific plan, or like I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. But the truth is, a lot of us are still kind of on that professional quest, if you will, and seeing what we are passionate about after, being able to go out and see the world a little bit and experience different jobs and see what you are truly passionate about, as well as when you're developing a business or you're starting a company, you really need to be passionate and knowledgeable about that, because it does get difficult along the way. So you do need to have that underlying passion to keep you moving and to keep you trying to figure out that Rubik's Cube of your business model and all that good stuff. But I'm curious as to what you guys see as trends for those that are starting a new business in like the next 3 to 5 years. What do you see as a future trend?
If If you're not following kind of the venture capital world, I would say get into that a little bit. There's a lot of VCs that put out a lot of really interesting kind of content around where is the funding going? What is it looking like in that world? And if you're starting your own business, you may very well be thinking about how you're going to fund it. So I would say kind of follow those trends as well. Right now, I'm seeing a lot in kind of the healthcare space, along with kind of metaverse. As we know, everyone is there. So that AR, VR technology kind of going into that but those are also more specific to kind of my role in health and beauty. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But I would say there's a lot of great VCs. There's some local in DC that are more cause-based VCs. So that may be an interesting route if you're kind of looking for a business in that area. But there's tons of fashion ones. If you guys are interested in learning about some of those, feel free to reach out to me. But it's a good area to explore.
I think for the small businesses, the new trend nowadays is collaboration. I see like more businesses are teaming up together to offer better customer experiences. Like about a year and a half ago, Jensen, who is the owner of Highside, came to us and see if we want to join them making a new coffee stout, and through the collaboration we were like able to produce some limited time drink for that. But you know, there are different types of collaborations we can do, and it's been about a year and a half since we opened our shop, and we were hitting 1 year mark, people have come to us to see if they could purchase wholesale beans, coffee beans from us. And so with that, we are now planning to open up a new roasting facility in Maryfield, Virginia. And that will happen in about a month or so, I think. And as I was preparing for that, I reached out to 2 businesses that are nearby. One is a the coffee equipment services and maintenance company called Java Rescue. And another company actually reached out to me, and there was a men's like online clothing store. And they asked me if I could share my experience finding a new retail space that was not at the storefront, because my coffee shop is located on the loading dock side, which is a bit of a weird location. And they wanted to see how I was managed to open my business there. So as I was talking with them, I asked them, like, you know, there is this facility that I want to open for my roasting, roasting facility. And are you interested in actually moving with me? And because even though our customer, our industry is different, our customers are intersected, like, because whoever likes specialty coffee are very much interested in special clothing that Withered Fig was offering. And so even though we had different business industry segment, we had the same common customer basis. And so as we are like now planning to move into this facility, we are coming up with new ideas to make this customer experience unique. So we are thinking about opening up an area, like designate a section of our facility so that we can host our customers, not just to look at their clothing, or not just to bring my coffee beans, or not just to get their coffee equipment maintained and serviced, but an area where they, like, all these 3 things can come together for customers to enjoy. So, you know, we are sort of thinking about doing that. But I think this sort of collaboration, which can bring a unique customer experiences, is becoming more trendy topic for small businesses.
I would add that it's actually never been easier to start a business. Yeah, it's pretty easy to start a business in the U.S. I mean, you can you can spend a couple of $100 and in a day have a lawyer incorporate you, everything that you need to do to actually create the legal structure of the business is pretty simple to do. And there are so many great tools online now for starting a business. I mean, you can use Shopify to create shopping carts. There are great tools for creating, nice looking websites. You can plug in a customer service solution to your, it's really easy to do that. The temptation is just to kind of, spend a couple of $1,000s to start a business and wing it. And, maybe you don't really know what you're doing. I started my first business 20 years ago by the seat of my pants. It was based on a business I had worked for 6 years. So I sort of knew what I was doing. But when I started my second business 2 years ago, I made the smart move of going through the ICAP program, which is available through the Small Business Development Center at George Mason. I would really encourage any student who's thinking about starting a business to go through the ICAP program, because they follow lean startup methodologies, which have been around for a couple of years, but they're trending more and more. And it's one thing to have an idea. Ideas are kind of easy, but actually doing something that's going to be successful is hard. And one of the things that the ICAP program teaches you how to do is something called customer discovery, where, if you have an idea for a new widget, you're going to go around and you're going to do a lot of interviews with potential customers and partners to find out, A, is this widget necessary? When will people actually pay for it? Because if the answer to those two questions is no, then you don't really have a business. So I would encourage any of you who have recently started a business or thinking about it is to look into the ICAP program and make the time investment of that. It's free, but it does require a bit of time. It's well worth it.
I can certainly provide the details on how to get access to that program. Just let me know if you're interested, and we'll probably send that out afterwards. But thank you so much. I think part of the entrepreneurial journey is learning how to fail fast in a certain sense, or see if this is an idea that's not working, how to quickly pivot rather than being kind of in love with your solution, just really wanting to solve a specific problem rather than saying, oh, I've got this great idea, everyone's going to love it. So to Michael's point, really knowing your customer is very important, as well as doing that research ahead of time rather than building and spending a ton of time and money into an idea that you have without getting that feedback. That's very essential from who you think your customers are. So sometimes that's another thing that you will learn along the way, is that who you think your customer is not always who that ends up being at the end of the day. And oftentimes you'll also end up in a completely different business idea than you started with. So just kind of the flexibility along the way, and just understanding that there's a bit of twist and turn that is inevitable in building a business. But any other thoughts on kind of the trends that you see in businesses, or trends that you're seeing in your specific industry?
Well, following on to what I said about how simple it is, and depending on the business you want to start, it can be relatively inexpensive to start a business. That means you don't necessarily need to look at venture capital. Venture cap. A lot of young people, when they think they want to start a business, they're going to turn to a venture capitalist that's going to put in millions of dollars to get you off the ground. First of all, venture capitalists, all they really want to do is they want to throw fuel on a fire. And you have to start the fire first. You have to show that your business is successful. They just want to help you, turn something that's successful into something mega successful. They really don't want to help you get off the ground. You've got to do that on your own. But while you may think it's prestigious to have, a major VC firm back your firm, you're giving up equity. And your equity is precious. If you can start a business and grow your business without surrendering your equity to a venture capitalist, you want to do that. That should be your last means of financing your business. If you can, if you have a home and you can finance it through a home equity loan, or a line of credit or something. If you can fund it, that's a lot cheaper than giving up equity in your business.
The other thing to look at, I think that's a really good point. In a lot of industries, there are accelerator and incubator programs that can really help you get mentorship for kind of I know at least in the retail industry, there's tons of accelerators and incubators who will offer mentorship from a lot of top companies and executives who can help you build that business. And it is a way of doing that without giving up kind of that equity to a VC, because that is a really good point that Michael brought up. So that's something to look into as well. There's the ICAP program, there's all kinds of programs. So I would say definitely do your research, because there are always people out there willing to help. And then another thing to do is really make sure you're networking. I myself don't love networking. I know it can be a challenge. It's a lot easier when you're set up kind of with someone to have those conversations, but go to networking events and make sure you're meeting people kind of in your industry, because that will help you kind of figure out those connections, especially if you're going to be looking for clients and things in the future.
And I will say a couple more things. One, to Michael's point about the venture capitalists, not only are they looking to add fuel to the fire, but they're also looking for an exit strategy. You know, they only want to invest for the short term, and then they're going to be looking for you to either go public or sell or some other way for them to get their money back with profit. So if you're looking to build a business over a long term, then the VC is definitely not the partner that you want to have, because that's not their goals. The second thing I wanted to bring up, kind of building on Hayes' point about partnerships, is the importance of community. I think one of the things I'm seeing is businesses building communities of their customers, not just serving their customers, but then creating a customer community. And people really seem to like that. And because they want to belong to something, they want to have the opportunity to network with other companies in their industry. And so if you're thinking about, you know, building a company, don't look at your customers as just individual one-off customers that just you have a relationship, but create a community of your customers so that you have relationships with each of them, but then they also have relationships with each other.
That's a really good point.
Value.
That's a really good point, Molly. And that follows on to Becky's question about trends in business. One of the trends in all business is, how can we turn our customers into a community? That's something that every entrepreneur has to be thinking about. And sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes there's not really any natural way to do that. But if there is a natural way to do that, you definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
And beyond the community aspect, because the customers then become kind of ambassadors for the brand, and they'll be excited. If they're excited about the community that you've built, they're also going to kind of add fuel to the excitement and to wanting to share with their family and friends. So it's both a kind of like an altruistic wanting to build a community, as well as kind of strategic as well, of wanting that enthusiasm to come through, because, you know, you can put all your money into marketing and do all the things that you're supposed to be doing. But there's something very powerful about, you know, somebody's sister or mom telling them that this is a great product or a great community to be a part of. So definitely a key part there. What do you guys find most rewarding about your work besides the financial aspects?
If I can chime in for this one a little bit. From my perspective, I've always been good at solving problems, and I've always had interest in business. And so being able to solve problems, when I was working full time, I was hired to do a specific role, specific position, and I couldn't really veer too much outside of that particular box. Now I have the flexibility to do what I would like to do, or to make my impact on the world, and as well as flexibility as far as when I work. And right now I'm in Louisiana, and I can travel and work. So I like that flexible part, and also the ability to make an impact, the impact that I would like to make.
For me, it is definitely get to meet people and make them happy. As a coffee shop owner, many people come to me and express their, I guess, appreciation of, you know, the drink that we offer or coffee that we offer, and that makes our day. Prior to opening up a coffee shop, I worked as an IT consultant for about like over 20 years, and there, you know, like I'm working for a big company, and of course I get to meet clients. But then, like after I opened up my coffee shop, I get to meet a lot more people that are like in the local community, and they come and like as we are offering our goods and drinks, they are like, the feedback is like very quick, from Google reviews or Yelp. If they don't like anything, they will let me know right away. But like I said, when we make something different from other shops around, and when that makes people happy, that makes my day. And another thing that's very rewarding for me is when the concept or the idea that I had in my head, when I was able to execute it or implement it through my business, and when people accept it, and when people really like that, then that also makes my job very rewarding. I don't know if you guys know much about our coffee shop, but like I said, our shop is like Foundation Coffee is located on the loading dock side. And when I was thinking about opening up my shop there, everyone, like including my father, my wife, they said like, don't do that. There's like no coffee shop, that is located, on the loading dock side. And how will people find out about it and so forth. But after, carefully studying about other, successful coffee shops, I had a plan, and also with different sort of things that sort of got built into the shop. And when it finally opened in the middle of pandemic, I was really worried if it would be successful, but it turned out that people were able to find out, through the internet technologies and with words of mouth, and we were able to quickly settle in, and like having those concepts that was in my head after like much plannings and all this, pain and mistakes that went through, and finally being implemented. And when that became a success, then, that, makes your hard work, like all paid off. And I think that's a beauty of becoming a small business owner. So that's, in my experience, that was what was rewarding for me.
I want to follow on to something that Hay mentioned. It wasn't asked by you, Becky, but I think it's important for young people who are thinking about starting a business to think about. And that is, unless you come from an entrepreneurial background, like Molly mentioned, her parents were encouraging of her. If you're a young person and you say you're going to start a business and you start to work on it, almost everyone who cares about you is going to discourage you. Almost everyone who cares about you is going to say, you're going to ruin your name, you're going to lose all your money, you really should be focusing on saving your money and getting a job so you can support a family. You have to have the experience and the knowledge to be able to get past that. And unless you've worked in, as I mentioned earlier, unless you've worked in an industry that you've learned and you know what the needs are, and you've done the customer discovery to know that this idea that you have in your head, people actually want it and will pay for it. Unless you've got that strength to fight, to fight through all that discouragement, it's going to be difficult. The other thing you have to think about is it's going to take much longer to be successful than you think it will. Every entrepreneur is wildly optimistic about how quickly they will get to the revenue they're going to get. I didn't get to with my first business the revenue I thought I would get in the first year. I didn't get to the 12th year. And I remember, and my first business is we give out business awards. And I remember we gave out an award to a Canadian company 7 or 8 years ago called Smart Technologies. It was founded by a husband and wife team. And it wound up being, I think, probably the leading maker of electronic academic whiteboards. And I remember the woman gave her acceptance speech, and she said that the revenue that she and her husband thought they would have in the first year, they didn't have until the 10th year. Now, what does that say? It says that, like most entrepreneurs, they were just completely unrealistic about how long it would take to get to where they wanted to be, but they didn't give up after the first year. They didn't give up after the 3rd year. And they didn't give up after the 5th year. And they didn't give up after the 7th year. And as we know, a majority of small businesses fail within 3 years, 5 years. And a lot of those are businesses that probably shouldn't have been started in the first place, but a lot of them were just given up on because the entrepreneurs didn't have the temerity and the fortitude to fight through their unrealistic expectations and just keep going. So just know that whatever that number is you have in your head that you're going to have after your first year or the third year is completely unrealistic, most likely.
Amen, Michael. If I could just come in, there's a book by Ben Horowitz, I believe, called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And I think that is a really good book to read. And so I would recommend that. And what you see a lot of times in the media and how things are glorified, that is not reality. So like the startups and all the stories that you hear, it is not the reality. I think that the hard thing about hard things kind of goes into detail there. So amen, Michael. I agree with what you said there.
Yeah, I agree. Also, by nature, entrepreneurs are very optimistic people. You have to be in order to be an entrepreneur, but most are overly optimistic, and you need to be a little more realistic. And I think, as Michael mentioned, having experience, getting an internship in the industry you want to start your business, getting a job first before you start your business in that industry, so you have more insight into the customer base and how the businesses work and how the industry work. I think that's really important. I wanted to go back to Rebecca's question about what's most rewarding about entrepreneurship, and to me, it is having flexibility. I have a business, I have employees, it's a full-time job. But at the same time, I have a lot of volunteer activities that I want to do. I serve on the Mason Women in Business Initiative board. I serve for the National Association of Women Business Owners. I'm on the advisory board for Enterprising Women magazine. And being an entrepreneur gives me the flexibility to move things around. If I need to travel to a conference or to a board meeting for one of these organizations, I can do that. And I have people to back me up, and I can work remotely if I need to, or whatever. And so, if I had a corporate job, I wouldn't be able to, one, spend the time serving these organizations that I really care about their mission. And two, I wouldn't necessarily have the flexibility to be able to rearrange things as needed to be able to do this work. So yeah, that's important to me.
For me, coming from more of an entrepreneurial perspective, there is a lot less stress due to risk. If one of my projects fail, it's not going to tank the whole company. Not that if one project of yours fails, it will tank it, but there is a lot less financial stress related to any projects I'm going to do. But that's to be taken with a grain of salt, because my company is answering to shareholders. We're answering to the public. There are also a lot of stipulations to what kind of projects you can do. But what I enjoy about kind of working with such a large company in a really innovation focused role is that I get to see a lot of really exciting technologies really early in their development, and I get to figure out where that will fit in. And I'm reaching a global consumer base when that project launches, if it kind of rolls out to different brands. Estee Lauder Companies has 20 plus makeup, hair, and skincare brands. So it can be really exciting when multiple brands start to have a new piece on their website that I know came from a technology that I vetted and I met with their entrepreneur startup. So it can be really exciting kind of on both sides of the spectrum. Flexibility is a little different. I mean, my boss just messaged me on Teams, so I saw the pop-up come up. So it's not really always going to be a make your own schedule, but it can be. I mean, my job is fully remote, so it does offer flexibility, which I think is unique to kind of the pandemic, and it has really changed the way people work. So it can be very exciting to start new pilots and projects and incubate ideas within a larger company. There's a lot of budget that comes with that can allow you to learn a lot. So I think if your end goal is to do a business of your own, kind of echoing the sentiment earlier of, you can learn a lot by being within a larger company and playing with ideas and kind of spinning up new things. But that communication, again, is going to be key. You'll have to learn how to kind of fight for what you want to do and learn how to get kind of allies within a company. And I know there was a question about kind of certificates and things like that that can really help you. And one thing that I'd like to kind of put out there is there are a lot of other programs that you can do in your free time. I know Summer of Design in DC, that's run through UVA, and that can be a really cool design thinking process, which will only help you in your entrepreneurial goals. So look for programs like that. Look for things you can do within companies. There are a lot of entrepreneurial kind of roles within larger companies. They can be hard to find, but I think they can also be very rewarding. And if you're looking to kind of have a job in that vein without all of the risk early on in your careers, it's something to look into and something that I've personally really enjoyed.
Thank you so much. I just also wanted to mention that Jody, your recommendation of Hard Thing About Hard Things, we do have that as one of our featured book club books that we've read. And so we do have copies. If you're interested in reading one, the center can provide one for you for free. So just reach out. And then kind of along the lines of that obligation of work-life balance, and now that things are a little bit different as far as what is expected in the workplace and what people want out of work. As an entrepreneur, what would you say is the obligation when you try to close the laptop for the day? What kind of things do you have to consider, or challenges that you might face of not being able to really turn off from work the same way you might in a 9-to-5?
There is no turning off the laptop. Even if I'm watching a basketball game like I was last night, I'm looking at business email on my phone. I mean, I remember being at the beach about 10 years ago, listening to a podcast or a business radio interview, and some entrepreneur was being interviewed and was talking about how he was a mountain climber and he had climbed some famous mountain, and he was checking his work email on his phone at the top of the mountain. And some woman called in and said, I think that's terrible that you can't take a nice vacation and get away from work. And he said, ma'am, you don't understand. If I couldn't check my email at the top of the mountain, I couldn't go to the mountain. This is the way that you live as an entrepreneur. You never really turn off. You kind of modulate how on you are. But I mean, I haven't taken a real vacation, like a turn off vacation. I don't think ever. I mean, and I don't care. I mean, I like this.
Yeah, I go to the beach for a week every summer, and I bring my laptop and I work for 2 hours in the morning, just answering emails and checking in and making sure nothing's going on. And then I, feel good about going out to the beach for a few hours. But I have my phone with me in case anyone calls and needs me. The only time in 20 years of being a business owner that I was not connected was a few years ago. I went for NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, to an international conference in Russia. And I was advised, do not bring your phone, do not bring your laptop, do not bring a tablet. So I basically just got a burner phone for emergencies only, and I couldn't check my email or anything on it. And that was the hardest thing, to be there for 5 days and not be able to check my work email. And it was stressful. It was stressful. So it's less stressful to be able to check the email and to be able to just check in every day than it is to turn off. You just can't turn off.
Yeah, I think when you are a business owner, all the responsibility falls onto your shoulder, right? So with that weight, you must be able to get connected. Like when you're on a vacation, your employees will reach out to you, even to talk about different things. And when you're planning for new things, you're like, I was talking about collaboration. And yesterday, I was at my church retreat, and of course, one of the business owners, because we are about to open up this new facility, reached out to me to ask me about certain questions that they had about the facility. And so it's very difficult to get yourself isolated completely, but that doesn't mean you will not be able to enjoy your time. As Michael and Molly mentioned, we still have that freedom to go out and enjoy our time. I mean, as a father of 3 children, I love spending time with my children, and of course I get interruptions here and there oftentimes, And you were mentioning like 9 to 5. Our store hour is 7 to 9. So, with that, it's very difficult to. But I think I still try to maintain my work and life balance, because I think family is really important for me, and I try to reserve certain time for my family as much as possible. But like I said, even with that, I will still have my communication channel opened, so that just in case I will be able to address certain problems that comes around. All kinds of issues comes up like at all time, and you must be able to be ready to provide solutions to that.
Thank you. Katie, did you want to
I
add
would
something?
just say, yeah, it's good to know, because even in the kind of working in an industry job, you're not going to have a perfectly 9 to 5 schedule in most cases outside of your kind of entry level position. Anytime you rise within a company and you have more responsibility on you, there's likely going to be things that you need to be made aware of. You need to do extra research on, you need to work outside of normal hours. So I will say, kind of, that just comes with any job. In most cases, I think within an industry job, likely your PTO or your paid time off is you're able to turn your computer off more, but kind of it's really role dependent, and it's up to kind of the individual to focus on that life balance and making sure that you're happy with kind of the situation you put yourself in. And I will say, kind of, as you guys get older and you think about families and kind of if you're doing your own business, you'll just want to keep those lines of communication open in your personal life as well. My boyfriend owns a business, so I kind of get it as well. He'll take calls at 9 p.m. and sometimes I'm like, you're crazy. What are you doing? So it really is something that communication is going to transfer over to your personal life as well. And I think that's what's exciting about entrepreneurship is it's generally because you are so passionate about a job, which I think is the unique difference than working 80 hours a week as an accountant, if that's kind of more of a slog on yourself. So it really is something that you'll need to keep your eyes open for, because you probably won't be working normal hours. But like everyone here said, that they enjoy that experience. So it is less work because it's something that you enjoy and it's producing something exciting. So I think that is kind of also what you need to think about is how will you kind of make time for yourself, whether it's 2 hours of work in the morning and then taking your vacation, or it's one call at 9 p.m., but making sure you relay that message and share your goals with the people around you, I think will make that much easier over time.
For sure. Thank you, Katie. So we're almost at our time. Does anyone have any last bit of final piece of advice that you'd like to share with the students that you wish you knew before, or something that would be encouraging? I know we went into a lot of the realistic aspect of entrepreneurship, but any last piece of advice?
I'll have a real quick one. And that is just, if you can, if the nature of your business allows it, start it as a side hustle first and get it established and going while you have a full-time job and have money coming in. And then when it gets to the point that you can afford to live on the money that's coming in with your side hustle, then quit your job and make that your main hustle.
Good advice.
I mentioned the customer discovery process as part of the ICAP program, and really just part of lean startup methodologies. And the nature of customer discovery is really talking to a lot of people about not necessarily your idea, but what their problems are, and whether the solution you're thinking of is something that they would want and use and might pay for. And that, the nature of that is talking to a lot of people about your business idea in one form or another. And a lot of people are reluctant to do that. They think, well, if I talk to people about an idea, they're going to steal my idea. And one thing I would tell you is, one of the things you learn after a while is that ideas are easy. Actually doing something is really hard. So do you want to keep your idea, under covers to some extent? Maybe a little bit, but don't be as afraid as you think you need to be about sharing your idea with people, because it's not so easy for people to do things. It's really hard to do something well. It takes long, it's harder and longer than you think. And it's not a natural thing for somebody to just take your idea and run with it. It's going to be hard, as hard for them as it is for you.
Thank you, Michael. And then Jody, did you have a last piece of advice that you wanted to share? And then we'll wrap up.
Sure. One thing that I didn't mention was the hard thing about hard things is he basically said what Michael said, just don't quit. And then also there will come a point, I think, when it comes to being successful is you basically have to burn the bridges and just pursue it full time and go at it 120% until you get to where you want to be. And that is my advice for that.
Well, thank you all, and wonderful pieces of advice and wisdom and encouragement for our students that are interested in entrepreneurship and might be going that direction. If they're listening to your advice, maybe they'll be getting a job right out and then learning along the way. But thank you all for your time and sharing your expertise. Is really great value for the students. And thank you everyone who logged on to watch, and then anyone that watches later on as well. So like I said, our center is in Enterprise Hall, room 278. I would encourage anyone who wants to join in more programming to stop by or send an email. But thank you all for your time.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.